guys, may launching. 4, 3,
2, 1.
Kennedy Space Center. And guys, makikita nyo.
That's the word we want to hear. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Seconds into this historic mission, flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9. Stage 1 is preparing to throttle down. This is in preparation for max Q, which is maximum aerodynamic pressure. There's that call out for throttle down.
Power and telemetry continue to be nominal for the vehicle, now traveling at 262 meters per second.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
So, as you can see, we have liftoff of the SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft from the Kennedy Space Center. 4 astronauts on board. They are headed to the International Space Station for a 6-month stay. It's the first crew rotation flight on a U.S. commercial spacecraft. The astronauts have named their Dragon capsule Resilience, given all of the challenges of 2020. There's Vice President Mike Pence, who is representing the White House as that ship heads to the heavens. Let's bring back Tom Jones, former NASA astronaut. Tom, that thing just jumped off the launch pad. Is it the improvement in rocket boosters? Is it a lighter ship? Why does it seem to get off the ground so much faster?
John, the Falcon 9 has about 1.7 million pounds of first stage thrust, and the shuttle had 70 million pounds. But the shuttle weighed a lot more, so they're about equal in terms of acceleration. And I can imagine, pilot Ike Glover on board the Resilience right now. He's on his first ride. He's having a heck of an experience as he rockets through first stage here. And soon the first stage is going to be emptied of its fuel and oxidizer, and they'll shift over to the second stage and then try to recover that first stage back on a barge off the Florida coast. So a little different from the shuttle. We used to recover our solid rockets by parachute. This booster lands tail first using its own rocket engines.
And for that, they need reasonably good weather off the coast. They can't have, 8-foot waves. That's part of the weather study that they need to do ahead of these launches, is to make sure that the barge is not going to be rocking and rolling when that first stage comes back and lands.
That's via satellite.
That's right. It's got tripod legs on the bottom, and so it can't have too much sea motion from that barge when the Falcon 9 first stage touches down. We'll cross our fingers if that happens in the next few minutes. Second stage is lit up now, and so the crew of 4 is well on their way to orbit, riding the second stage with a single Merlin engine, and they'll be there into orbit in about 8.5 minutes total flight time, just about what the shuttle did.
It's just amazing to me to see these pictures that you can watch now live, looking back down the rocket booster, toward the first stage, and now we're watching the second stage, the kind of thing that you didn't have in the NASA era, at least, Apollo and so forth.
Well, there's a reason for all of these great camera views, and that's engineering. We want to be able to see the performance of the rocket engines, want to see if any debris comes off the booster. That was very important during the final 10 years of the shuttle's flights, to look for any debris impacts on the shuttle orbiter. And the same reasoning applies here. You want as much information as you can. And now with the availability of these miniature cameras that came along, in the 1990s, we can see a lot of from a lot of vantage points around the rocket. And to watch the second stage performance here, it's very dramatic here in a night launch like this to the station. And in about 27 hours, a little over a day, we'll be able to see some great approach shots of the space station from the same spacecraft.
And for those who are wondering what's in that very dark screen on the left that we feature right now, in the upper left corner, you're just starting to see the first stage disappear. It sort of drifted out of sight there, but that is the first stage falling back to Earth. And then as it falls, eventually they will relight that rocket engine and try to bring it back safely on board the barge, bring it to a landing, a safe landing, and ultimately reuse if it can land safely on that barge that is off the coast of Florida. again, the technology is absolutely amazing. And so far, Tom, this launch seems to be picture perfect.
Indeed, it looks like just the kind of launch a crew would enjoy, and that's to having made it through all of the simulations that they've gone through, where everything gets thrown at you by mission control, one malfunction after another, and then to have a ride like this, where it's ultra smooth and there's nothing going wrong, the computers are running things so smoothly. It's just such an exhilarating and a relieved feeling to be on your way without any big emergencies like this, and we've had a smooth launch tonight.
Yeah. 20 years the International Space Station has been occupied. It boggles the mind that craft has been up there that long and continuously occupied.
Right, I was there in 2001, helping build the space station. I stayed there for a week, and in fact, the astronauts going to orbit tonight, they'll be working out of the same laboratory that I delivered, the U.S. Destiny Laboratory. The space station has about another 9-10 years of life left. The international partners have agreed to go at least through 2028. So there's a lot of research productivity still to get from the station, including a lot of technology tests that will help us build an outpost on the moon and get our way onto Mars. And I hope we never see another time in history when humans are not living off planet Earth.
Yeah. And some of the research that this crew intends to undertake involves growing crops in space, I understand.
Right, they've shifted over from a variety of lettuce in previous expeditions to carrying some radishes to grow. And they'll certainly get a taste of the crop that they grew up there, but we're going to learn more about the right environment, the right kinds of environmental conditions for growing the optimum crop.
What state?
And of course, if you can scale this
up, the Kennedy Space Center. Is it in Florida?
An oven here on Earth.
Florida.
How big the growth chamber is. If you can scale that up to a greenhouse, it means very important things for making an expedition to Mars or an outpost on the moon more likely, because you can grow your own food and you can recycle carbon dioxide through those plants and produce oxygen.
They're also going to be taking a look, as I understand it, at is it fungus or bacteria, and whether it is able to break apart some of the space debris, meteorites, rock essentially, with an eye toward eventually perhaps being able to mine some space rocks.
It's an experiment called BioRock, and so there are microbes on Earth here that can break down minerals and produce byproducts of their metabolism that can be economically useful. And so the idea here is you take asteroid dirt or moon dirt and let the microbes go to work on it, and you might get materials like rare earth elements, very valuable economically here on Earth, so we can expand the resource base for planet Earth and its growth and the growth of its economy.
On the left, we have the first stage. That's the rocket booster that initially lit up and launched the Dragon off the launch pad at Cape Canaveral. It is now returning to Earth, so the rocket engine is firing again, but it's not in an upward trajectory. Instead, it is dropping toward Earth, and that rocket is firing to slow its approach to that barge that is, again,
yan guys, makikita nyo via satellite, space shuttle, pinalipad sa Florida, United States of America, ngayon lang.
Barge tonight and then reuse it for another crewed mission down the road. Once again, Tom, it looks like all systems are, well, spectacular, and the 4 astronauts on board, are they feeling the lack of gravity by now, huh?
Now, they're under acceleration from that second stage engine, John, just in the last few seconds now of their ascent. And so they're subjected to about 4 times the force of gravity at this point. And from the previous crew, Doug Hurley and Bob Benkin, they report a lot of vibration in the second stage, a lot more than they were used to from their shuttle experience. So we should be seeing this engine shut down in just the next few seconds.
Well, and right on cue, there it goes. Shut
now
it
that means they're in orbit.
Wow. Now, the space station was flying over Cape Canaveral. Oh, and there, wow, look at that. The booster engine, the booster stage, first stage, just landed on that barge. So this mission, by all accounts, has to be considered a smashing success. I mean, they did have some trouble with that technology in the early going, but they seem to have perfected it, Tom, and now they've got their first stage already back on the barge.
I think the success rate for these first stage recoveries is now above 80%, it seems. And this is really economically valuable for SpaceX. They get to turn around this first stage and its 9 valuable engines, and they will fly the next one of the next crew missions next year once they refurbish this rocket. So it really drops the cost of launch. That means the taxpayer gets a better deal.
Female and
the cost
3
of transporting astronauts to the space
And
station
the other
goes
one
down.
is
At the same time,
the
we get
Japanese.
a chance to re-examine the engines, make sure there were no problems. So
Yes, you'll
this
see them.
reusability is a big plus in terms of reliability over the long term and also lowering the cost. And that helps NASA spend more of its budget on returning to the moon, getting out to the asteroids and Mars.
We are seeing some of the items that they carry in the cockpit there starting to float around in these live pictures from on board the Dragon capsule Resilience. You can see the lack of gravity. It looks like something out of a space movie, but this is the real deal. These are live pictures coming to you from space. The second stage engine has shut down, as Tom Jones just told us. And so now the astronauts and everything around them are weightless. Huh, Tom?
They're in free fall. They're in weightlessness. Microgravity is another term for it. And they'll very gently start to unstrap here in a few minutes.
Okay guys, thanks for watching. This is Sunny Weather 21 vlog. Keep on watching, guys.
But there's room for these 4 folks for the next 24 or 27 hours, in fact, before they dock with the space station. So there's a chance to get a meal, chance to get some sleep, to clean up after being in those suits for several hours, and put on some more comfortable clothes before their docking maneuvers starting tomorrow.
And it's my understanding that although this is the first fully crewed mission, they could actually pack 3 more astronauts into that capsule if they wanted to. They could put a crew of 7 on board.
That's true. There's enough volume for 7 people, and you might think of that in case of we have to conduct a rescue mission at the space station where you go up with a minimum crew and then bring astronauts home in those extra seats. Also, SpaceX, Boeing, those 2 companies would like to fly these spaceships on tourism flights in the near future. So 7 people might go up on an expedition, maybe lasting a week or so, to a commercial outpost or an adventure hotel, if you will, a resort up there in orbit.
Sign me up.
Me too.
We just saw the second stage detached. Now that one does not get reused, or it doesn't go back to the barge. Do they make any effort to retrieve it from the ocean?
John, it's really tough because this second stage is now